I met someone tonight. I feel a little inspired. This one's called Closer. 'Cause I want to get closer to you, girl.
What was, when you first kind of set out on this endeavor, what was the kind of immediate thought of the challenge? What was the thing that you were hoping to bring to the screen?
Well, the book was sort of in the middle of its growing frenzy. It wasn't there yet, but when I read it, I just reacted in a very personal way, and there were two things that happened. One, I thought, why do I still think it's so cuckoo for an older woman to be with a younger man? And I really questioned myself at that moment. And I thought, if I'm still thinking that that's so risque, then clearly this is something we should make a movie about. And then the second thing was that I was taken by the notion that I thought we could do like a romantic comedy that, ultimately turned into more of a romantic dramedy. But I really felt it was interesting that it was about a woman who was choosing a version of happiness, not between two men. And so her big, kind of question was like, do I, self-actualize in a yurt, or do I like open myself up and be vulnerable again to men? And I kept thinking, well, I'd probably choose the yurt. And so I was kind of like, oh God, I really think this is something we have to talk about. And for me, whenever I pick a movie or pick something to work on, it's because it keeps resonating and resonating for a number of days or a number of weeks. And I keep thinking like, God, this really is hitting something. It's chord. So that was what it was for me.
Michael, what resonated with you?
For me, it's a kind of a, as a fan of romantic comedy, dramedy, whatever you want to call it, it just felt like a story that was interesting, but also felt really fun, that it did have these sort of bigger ideas. And so, looking for stories like that in this genre that feel new. Like, I haven't seen this yet, and I feel like I want to tell this story and I want to learn more about these characters. And so that's kind of what we did. We kind of like imagined that we were in it. What would happen next? What would it be? That kind of a thing. And it was, so for me, it's just more about these characters and this world.
What were some of those inspirations for this one? I mean, when people think of this genre of, the famous person and the real person, you think of movies like a Notting Hill and things along those lines.
Well, definitely Notting Hill is a big inspiration. Hugh Grant is our, Solène is our Hugh Grant, and Silver Lake is our Notting Hill. And we talked about that. I think we all have those fantasies. We all have those fantasies of that person who's famous, that we think, man, if that person knew me, they'd think I was so cool or whatever, like the fantasy of you meet that person that you idolize and they love you. They think you're great. They get to know you. And so that's fun.
Okay, Silver Lake is your Notting Hill, but also Atlanta. It's really incredible how, I'm from Georgia, and it's really incredible how much you all had Atlanta and Savannah and Buckhead and really made this film feel so big and international. Tell me a little bit about that challenge as well.
Well, in some ways, I think great kudos to Justin Ball, who's our visual effects supervisor, and who I've been working with now for 4 or 5 movies and shows in a row. And it seems like there's no challenge too big for him. And so, he certainly was able to figure out that the Silver Lake Reservoir could be doubled by doing another reservoir and then just using plates. And he was also able to, he had the idea to stick in the Vista Theater in the smack in the middle of a town in Atlanta. And those were some of the ways that we were able to do it. But yeah, we just had to be super inventive, and we didn't have enough money to travel.
mean, Atlanta has similar architecture as Silver Lake. There's craftsman houses. There's actually palm trees in Atlanta. So it has a similar kind of like a lot of vegetation, a little bit overgrown, a little bit kind of kooky. And so we were, really lucky with that. Really lucky that we were able to match Silver Lake in that way. And then, putting mountains, they go to Glendale and that's a visual effect. That mountain is a visual effect. And
Coachella.
We kind of built our own Coachella, but then put in those mountains in the background and tons of crowd replacement and everything. Then Savannah has all these different European architectural sort of hot spots. There's, so when they're in that alleyway and they're making out and it's raining, that's Savannah. When they're in the south of France and they're swimming in the ocean, that's Savannah. That French cafe, that that French cafe, not the exterior, but the interior, is a restaurant in Savannah. And so walking on the streets of Barcelona, that's Savannah. And so, great location, manager on this. And
yeah, I mean, it's interesting that, like, when you think about the cost thing, that it was still more prudent for us to do visual effects in Atlanta than to come back to LA to shoot, which really shows the advantage of that Atlanta rebate, that the combination of those things. I mean, I'm just saying from a technical standpoint. Yeah.
Every movie does hinge on your lead, but in a romantic film, every movie hinges on the chemistry, the connection. I know that the chemistry read story between Anne and Nick is kind of become a little famous when talking about this movie. But what do you all remember about being in that audition room and kind of knowing, all right, this could really work?
Okay, for me, we have talked about this a bit, but we auditioned a bunch of these great young guys, came into New York for a long weekend from all over. They were from the UK, they were from Australia, they were from, we had, the one guy was from like the Netherlands. We had, they really searched high and low to find this actor. And I like to have like a little Zoom call with them the night before, just to sort of say, hey, this is what's going to be like. This is what to expect. Any kind of questions you can ask me. I get a little bit of familiarity with them. And when I had the Zoom call with Nick the night before his audition, I was texting Cathy going, this is the guy. And we had met a bunch of great guys. It wasn't like, oh my God, we're so lucky we found him. It was like there were other guys that we loved too. And it was like, no, it's got to be this person. He's so charming. He's so funny, relatable, all of those things. He's confident but not cocky, like all these different things. And then in the audition for me, it was he sang a song, because we had them singing a song, and his guitar playing was excellent, his singing voice was excellent, but more than anything, it was his performance of the song. He was really serenading Anne. The other guys were kind of singing to all of us. He was singing right to Anne.
Yeah.
And it was like, do you want us to leave? Like, should we leave? It's that kind of an energy, but you could just feel it. And then I didn't say anything. I told Cathy how I felt, but I didn't tell Anne how I felt, because I didn't want Anne to feel any pressure. And she was like, well, it's obviously got to be that guy. And we were like, really? You liked him? Okay, sure, we'll do him. Yeah.
It was interesting because we gave them all a song to sing, but he sang his own song,
he sang a different song.
Oh, right.
But it wasn't a song he wrote.
No.
That's what
what it was. He wrote, not a song he wrote.
Is that
He brought his
song?
own song.
He brought his own song. It's a song by an artist, I want to say, named Daniel Caesar.
Okay.
Do you know that name?
I do, yeah.
And he just sang his own. It was pretty great. It's pretty great.
I mean, what it sounds like you're describing is what we all see when we watch this movie. There's something so intimate about this film. This film in general is just very sensual, even more than being like, super steamy or whatever. It feels like when they're talking, so basically the entire sequence when they first go to her house for the first time, everything from the making the sandwiches to Anne's incredible delivery of the story of the breakdown of her marriage, it all just feels very, very vulnerable. That the kind of vulnerability that we don't really see happen very much. This kind of like once in a lifetime kind of connection you might have with someone. To tell me a little bit about capturing that and how you all wanted to actually like quite literally frame it sometimes as well in the look of these scenes.
I mean, for me, that sequence is kind of like the whole heart of the movie, is that chunk of the movie. In that long sequence, hopefully, if we've done our job the right way, you now believe these two people should be together, because they get to know each other. They share deep personal things about themselves to the other. Sort of the layers are coming off. It's the love at first sight thing is not interesting to me. I looked at you and I already know I like you. Like, how do you know you like me? You don't even know me. I want to see these two characters fall in love. I want to see it. I want to see what that looks like. I want to understand what needs to happen in order for two people to decide. And it's not that they have so much in common. Mm-hmm. It's actually the opposite. Or not the opposite, but that it's not about commonality. It's about chemistry. It's about how do these two people fit together. And so I think they discover in this sequence that they actually have a lot of commonality that's maybe not what you would think it is. And in terms of how we shot it, it's just bearing witness to it. It's literally just letting the performances dictate what we need to see and what's important. It's following the performances. It's following the story and bearing witness to what's happening between these two people.
Yeah, I mean, all I would add that I just was such an interesting learning experience for me working with Michael on the script was this cadence thing that you did, this was the world's longest scene. And as a matter of fact, there were like 3 of the world's longest scenes all leading up to this kiss. And I kept saying, well, we're like halfway through the script. Like
It's like an hour into the movie.
It's an hour.
And not that much has happened.
Yeah, and so, traditionally, as we all know, like as filmmakers, like you should be at the end of Act 1, right? Like 30 pages in. And he was like, no, like this is going to be a movie about, letting us witness what you just said, bear witness to what it means to fall in love. And that's what the movie's about. And then we can fly. And I remember this sort of like just getting used to that was like a learning thing. And it was just a brilliant choice, Michael.
Oh, thank you.
And he really did that. He cracked that in that script. That was him.
Yeah, the first act ends with him. I mean, the first act is almost really the end of Coachella.
Yeah.
The first act is like, wow, that was weird. Like
It's
that was
very
a crazy
untraditional.
experience. Like that was weird that I just went to Coachella and this guy just sang me a song.
Yeah.
Because you all created the circumstances and we're all on the same page to which we all felt like we went through that amazing experience. And even if it doesn't work out at the end, it still was worth the ride. So thank you for taking us on this bit of a journey this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for coming.